Okay, so welcome back to Philosophy Online Lecture. We are still on medieval philosophy, taking St. Thomas Aquinas. Okay, so now we are on St. Thomas Aquinas, Psychology and Epistemology. Okay, so to St. Thomas Aquinas, the human soul, is the form of the body. That is that essence of that body. Okay, so both matter and form to him constitute a unified entity, but the soul is the form as it continue to exist even after the death of the body. Okay, now he also holds that plants and animals have souls. Okay, the soul of a plant performs vegetative function. The animals has aside reproducing, they also have that of sensation and locomotion. Now, the human soul has all those of both the plants and animals, including the power of intellection, and that is what distinguish human from the others, because we are rational. Okay, we have the power of intellection, and this power of intellection which the human soul has can be exercised independently of the body, but the other ones shared with the animals cannot be exercised independently. And that is movement, you need the body; sensation, you need the body; and to eat, reproduce, you need the body. But that of intellection can be performed without the body. Okay, so moving further, Thomas Aquinas held that there is no common cosmic intellect. There was a philosopher, I think Farabi or Avegus, said that there is a common cosmic intellect. Aquinas rejected this, because if there's a common cosmic intellect that all humans share, how come we think differently? So we do not have a common cosmic intellect. Okay, and he also said that man is endowed with a will. Now, this will is a rational appetite to do what is good. Okay, and doing what is good to seek happiness. We have the will, a rational appetite to do good, and which is to seek happiness. Okay, now the highest form of happiness can only be found in God. Okay, the highest form of happiness to Aquinas can only be found in God. Now, Aquinas also rejected the theory of innate ideas, like St. Augustine. Okay, he said that we can only acquire knowledge through sense perception. Okay, so we can say Aquinas was an empirist. Okay, now he said that aside our five sense organs, okay, we also have four internal senses. We have four internal senses. One, the common sense. The common sense differentiates the data gotten from our external senses. Okay, now that is why we can differentiate between colors, between touch. You get, so it is the common sense that does that, and it is an internal sense. The second internal sense is imagination, and this one preserve the data gotten from the senses. Okay, that is the external senses. We have the third one, the estimative sense, which perceive things that are beyond the senses. That's that you know that this person is an enemy, this person is a friend to me. Okay, the memory is the fourth one, and this one preserve data gotten from the estimative sense. Now, lastly, say that our external sense can only grabs rather particular objects and not universal idea. Universal idea can only be gotten through what we picture in those particular objects. Now, moving straight to his ethics, like Aristotle, uh, he held the same ethical views, but his was more faith based, faith oriented. So he affirmed that man action are directed towards good, with the highest good being intellectual contemplation of the highest being. Now, the highest being is God. Let me explain. Now, the our action are directed towards the highest good, and this is what we think of when we act. Okay, so why the intellectual contemplation of the uh, uh, highest being God. To Aristotle, is a philosophic contemplation. To Aquinas, it is mystical, a beatific vision of God. Okay, so because we have that idea of God and heaven, a beautiful vision, we are made to do good in order to partake in this. Do you get it? So it is a beatific vision, a mystical one. To Aristotle, it is a philosophic contemplation. Okay. Now, moving further, he said virtue is an attribute we get when we do good consistently. So when you do good consistently, it becomes a virtue in you. Okay. Now, morality to Aquinas is attached to reason. That is, our moral is attached to our rationality. Okay. So he said this because virtue is the rule of reason over passion. Okay, virtue is the rule of reason over passion. So when we say virtue is what we do consistently, it is because you hold those things as rational things above what satisfy your selfish desires, what satisfy your emotion, but your reasoning. Okay, what are rights? Okay, what are objective? Okay, so he said that man is a moral being because we are a rational being. Okay, now he said reason has two function: the speculative function and the practical function. I will explain this. For reason to have two function, speculative and practical, it implies that we have two intellect, that is the speculative intellect and the practical intellect. Let me explain this. Now, the speculative intellect helps us in reasoning, in knowledgeable areas like mathematics, philosophy, metaphysics, and so on. That is how we're able to get knowledge and know things like that. Okay, the practical intellect is to guide our moral action. Okay, so practical intellect to guide our moral action to do what is good and avoid what is bad. Okay, now he said that free will is important. Okay, and so he went against determinism because determinism remove our basis of morality. It denies us our freedom. But when there's free will, we can always praise that person who chooses to do good. Okay, so free will is important. Okay, now he said that the goal of the intellect is to guide the will. The goal of the intellect is to guide the will in making moral action. So when you think properly, your intellect guides your will to act rightly. Now, the will sometimes disobey the intellect, and this is when we do something that is bad deliberately. Okay, now four things must be considered before making a moral judgment to Thomas Aquinas. Number one, if the action is voluntary. Number two, what is the nature of that action? Is it lying? Is it stealing? And so on. The number three is what is the intention of the action? Number four, to be considered before making a moral judgment is what is that circumstances in which the action was performed. Okay, so those four must be considered before making a moral justification. Okay, now he also said man has this thing called synthesis. Synthesis is a natural way of grasping fundamental principles of morality. Okay, and it is in every man and it is always infallible. That is, it never fails. Now, the role of the conscience in man is to apply the principles of synthesis. Okay, now any decision made by the conscience is what we must follow at all times. Although the conscience can make mistakes, but we should always follow it. Okay, because the conscience is believed to act towards what is good at all times. Okay, so that is on Thomas Aquinas ethics. Now, quickly to his natural law, which we are concluding with. He said that law is a command or directive that must appeal to reason. Law is a command or directive that must appeal to reason. Okay, and any law that does not appeal to reason, that is not rational, should not be qualified as a law. Now, he also said that a law must be directed towards the common good and not for selfish interest. That is, law must apply to everybody and to ensure the good of everybody and not favor some people and leave out some people. And also he said that a law must be known by everyone that is bound by that law. So no one should be ignorant of a law that he or she is bound to follow. Okay, so it is the job of the government to do that. Now, he said that there are four types of law. There is the eternal law, which God used to govern his creations. We have the natural law, and this is when we use reason, that is that rationality, to lead our life. It is, in philosophy of law, there's what's called natural law and positive law. The natural law are the laws that apply to reason, okay, and not the written law. Okay, now we have the divine positive law, and these are laws in the duties of religion, okay, as the laws gotten from revelation, like church tenets, Islamic tenets, and so on. The last one is the human positive law, which are laws made by the government, like the opposite of the natural law in philosophy of law. The human positive law, laws made by the government that everyone is bound under. Okay, so that is how we conclude Saint Thomas Aquinas. Thank you so much for listening. Please turn on notification and subscribe.